common sense government.
American, young, old, rich, poor.
I'd like to welcome you to the Oregon Conference on Aging. My name is Carolyn Aldwin. I am the Joanne Leonard Endowed Chair for the Center for Healthy Aging Research, and it's been my absolute pleasure to work with the Governor's Commission on Senior Services to host this conference. As you all know, aging is an increasingly important issue. With the advent of the silver tsunami, I would assume that everybody in this room knows what that is, but just in case you don't, the Social Security Administration estimates that about 10,000 baby boomers retire every day. Right? That's an awful lot of people, and it presents a tremendous challenge, but also tremendous opportunities. And the focus of most of the research and education and outreach here at Oregon State University is maintaining healthy aging and promoting health, because we think that the older adults just have a tremendous potential to continue to contribute to their families and communities and society as a whole. So I want to tell you just really briefly about our programs here at OSU. We have been looking at gerontology for over 40 years. Our gerontology program was started by Vicki Schmoll and Clara Pratt, whom many of you know. As I said, that was 40 years ago. We also have a strong education program. We offer a certificate in gerontology and also education at the undergraduate and graduate level. And there's a Center for Healthy Aging Research, which I have the honor of directing for right now. Karen Hooker was our founding director, and she is here today also. I'd like to point out in your packet, there is our brochure, which explains what we do. We do research from cells to society. We look at biological processes of aging and micronutrients. We look at skeletal muscular health, better bones and balance. We look at individual and community aging and how to promote healthy aging in individuals and communities. And then we look at human-centered design and technology for assistive devices and how to make environments competent. So I want to point out to you, and there's also, by the way, we have something called the Life Registry. There's also something in your packets. We have about 800 Oregonians, 55 and older, who participate in our research pool. And we're always looking to add to that number. It's very easy to sign up. We'd love to get as many people to sign up as possible. Okay. So I want to tell you there's just a couple of changes in the schedule today. So Joe Gallegos is going to be one of our keynote speakers, but he's going to share some time with Senator Gelser, Sarah Gelser, who is unable to be here in the afternoon, so he graciously gave up a little bit of his time, and Joe Gallegos is going to be the speaker at the Healthy Aging Symposium this afternoon. And so I really want to welcome, I'm very glad that everyone is here. I would like to welcome you all once again and to thank Rebecca Arce, who's the staffer at the GCSS, and also then to introduce to you Judy Strand, who is the CEO of the Metropolitan Family Service in Portland, Oregon. Her background is in geriatric mental health, and she has been in the nonprofit sector for many years and is well-versed with running programs that affect people across the generations as well as aging. And I would also like to introduce Nancy Pierce. They are both with the Governor's Commission on Senior Services, and Judy is the director of that. Thank you very much.
Well, I'm really excited to see you all here. Thank you for coming. Thank you for bringing your thoughts and ideas forward for this important work we're going to do, which started really with the governor's work last year and the White House Conference on Aging. We really are so glad to share with you some of the thoughts and ideas the commission has had and some of the thinkers we're bringing forward today that you'll hear from on the panels. I think will inform all of you and bring you ways that you can get involved to help improve life for many Oregonians. I wanted to also thank OSU and Carolyn and all your colleagues for being the host today. This is a wonderful partnership, so great to be connected with higher ed. And we also have a slew of partners to thank. This was a group effort. I also want to thank Rebecca Arce, who did a fantastic job as the coordinator of this conference from the DHS office. I actually just did something I'm not supposed to do, which is an acronym. So I am here to tell us all to remember not to use acronyms, or if we do, to correct ourselves, to speak clearly and a little slower than usual so that interpretation can occur. And also just to remember that we all come from different backgrounds and fields and life experiences, so to take time to clarify and listen and make sure that we're understanding each other in terms of group rules, if you will. I want to introduce Nancy Pierce, who is the person from the commission that has been spearheading our work on creating this conference. Nancy worked for Congressman DeFazio as well as Weaver, and she's going to share a little bit with us right now.
Thank you. Good morning. I mean, good morning. That's what I like. People aging and people with disabilities with loud voices. You know, we have been sharing our loud voices for a long time, and my expectation is we will continue into the future with the help of the people in front of us and the people behind us. This conference is, as Judy said, building on the shoulders of last year's conference, using the 4 pillars that were presented to us by the White House Conference on Aging, which is elder justice, long-term services and supports, healthy aging, and retirement security. The people who were very instrumental in that conference were Anne McQueen, Suzette Boydston, and Dick Wyman, and I want to thank them very much for setting this up as even a possibility. As I was getting ready for this conference and the public health conference that took place in the other building 2 days ago, I was energized by thinking and reading and learning about, or being reminded of, the people who made Oregon, Oregon. We're not at this point in history in Oregon coincidentally. There are people, individuals, who made a difference and who worked really, really hard. One of the things that I found interesting and surprising is that Senate Bill 955, which was passed in 1981, which nobody expected to pass, did, because 5 people, including members of the Governor's Commission, went all over the state to explain it to people. So thank you for being here today, and if you have any questions, ask somebody. There you go.
You know, I forgot to say something very important, which is that I'd love it if all of the commissioners would stand, all the people on the commission, and all the people who have served on the Governor's Commission. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you. I was also asked to request that speakers who are coming up be ready to come up to get a little closer right before you speak so that we can move along quickly. And with that, I'm pleased to introduce Ashley Carson Cottingham, who is the Director of Aging and People with Disabilities. She has worked across the United States and in Oregon to help improve the lives of older adults, and she was also the past staff director for the U.S. Senate Subcommittee on Primary Health and Aging. Ashley has been an active participant in our commission, so we're pleased to have her here today to speak with us.
Thank you so much. Good morning. As Judy just said, I'm Ashley Carson Cottingham. I'm the Director for Aging and People with Disabilities for the state of Oregon. I'm really happy to see all of you here today, and that Oregon is leading the way by raising these issues in an annual conference, our very own annual conference on aging and disability. Instead of waiting for that 10-year time frame that we follow nationally, where we do a White House conference on aging every decade. I don't think that we have so many things coming up all the time, and we've got to meet much more often to talk about these issues. As a program, Aging and People with Disabilities, our vision is that older adults and people with disabilities, their families, and their caregivers have easy access to the services and supports and early interventions that they need to help maintain independence, honor choice, and uphold dignity. As an agency at the Department of Human Services, we're very focused on safety. You've probably heard a lot about our focus on the safety of children, but we are also very focused on the safety of vulnerable older adults and people with disabilities. But we also have to be mindful and continue to honor choice. We're working tirelessly right now around the sustainability of the long-term services and supports program within Aging and People with Disabilities. We are making changes that we hope will have as little impact as possible on the consumers that we serve. I want to thank the Governor's Commission on Senior Services for all of the amazing work that they've done throughout the years and for advocating for so many of the department's priorities. I especially want to thank the elected officials here today who have been involved and supportive of our efforts: Representative Gallegos, Senator Riley, Representative Gomberg, and Senator Gelser. Let's give them a round of applause. And I have some more thank yous. A very special thanks to Judy Strand and Nancy Pierce for your efforts in gathering the speakers and sponsors for today. Yay. And I want to commend the intergenerational approach that's been used between the Governor's Commission and two universities, OSU, where we are today, and PSU. They've all, that approach, the intergenerational approach, has been so appreciated and needed. Thank you to the host sponsor, Samaritan Health, and the keynote sponsor, the Oregon Department of Veterans Affairs. Last, I would like to thank my staff at Aging and People with Disabilities. They staff the Governor's Commission, and I want to give a huge kudos to Rebecca Arce for all of her tireless work to make this conference a success today. Yay. And last, I'm supposed to remind everyone that there is a reception to follow the conference from 5 to 7 this evening, and we really hope that all of you will join us for that reception tonight. It is now my pleasure to introduce the next speaker. The next speaker is the director of the Oregon Department of Veterans Affairs, and his name is Cameron Smith. Before becoming the director of the Oregon Department of Veterans Affairs, he was an advisor to 2 previous governors. He was also a captain in the U.S. Marine Corps, where he completed 3 tours of duty in Iraq. Please welcome Cameron Smith.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Ashley, although with this audience of all the PhDs in the program and the doctors, I had asked her to abbreviate director as DR period so I could be Dr. Smith, but unfortunately no. But thank you to DHS and the team for sponsoring this. Thank you to our OSU hosts and Carolyn, who we had out to our advisory committee out in the Dalles for this last time. Also want to thank the Governor's Commission on Senior Services, Judy Strand, and the entire team. I also want to thank Samaritan Health. We are fortunate to have them as the true sponsor helping put this on. And I want to give a shout out to Larry Mullins, who is a Vietnam veteran, a fellow Marine, and has done amazing work leading the charge for Samaritan Health in this Mid-Willamette Valley community. So let's give Samaritan a round of applause. And Dr. Mullins is fortunate to have Suzette, who we'll hear from later on aging issues. At ODVA, we are fortunate to have Miss Mary Yeager on our team leading the charge on aging veteran services. And I'm expecting some boos from the audience that we poached her away from the long-term care ombudsman, maybe other than Fred Steele, who got the job. But she is a tremendous advocate, and we hope she is linking our two worlds of veteran services and the veterans and military families and all aging Oregonians. Unfortunately, she is in Oktoberfest land in Germany. But we have our team here today, and an honor for us to be a sponsor. When I show up at many veterans community events or connect with our veterans leadership, I have to convince them that I have, with my baby face, I have to convince them that I have a permission slip from my parents to be the director. But 52% of our veterans population served in Vietnam, Korea, and World War II. And they have extremely, just like all citizens, issues as they age and disabilities from their service-connected time. We're proud to have 2 veterans homes taking care of our aging veterans. Last year at the conference, I think many of you were able to tour. The Lebanon facility just came up on its 2-year anniversary. Thankful to have Kelly Odegaard and the team leading the charge there, now at a full census, 100% full, with veterans and their family members to make sure they get the best in care as they age. Also, our conservatorship program and representative payee that most folks don't know that we have, taking care of some of the finances for our vulnerable veterans. But also the county by county local veteran service officers that help link our veterans and their families to the vast resources of the federal VA. Just on disability compensation, we draw down annually $1.3 billion for 67,000 plus disabled Oregon veterans. And that is largely only out of every 3 out of every 10 Oregon veterans accessing their benefits. We know we are leaving federal VA resources on the table that could further bring those tax dollars back home from DC, but also help preserve the state general fund budget on safety net services at the state and local level. So always encourage veterans that you meet to connect to that VSO office, and we have a table out front to give a wave in the back. We have Kim Johnson and Kelly Brashears on our team with our benefit magazines and info to how to connect. We will also ask to tap into your expertise on how to make the federal VA services, which is the big behemoth of healthcare and benefits, $2.6 billion spent in Oregon annually from the federal VA, but often in ways that are not modeling that Oregon way of how we age in place with our families in the community in a safe and dignified and independent way. And we need to bring that to how we are serving our aging vets. And I'm not going to say he is an aging veteran, but it is my honor to introduce a fellow veteran, Representative Joe Gallegos. He has an incredible life story. When you look at his long biography, even if you look at his short biography, it makes you feel bad about yourself. But his Mexican-American family, one of the early Mexican-American families to come to Oregon after, or right around the time or after World War II, who knows what the second largest city in 1945, 1946 was in Oregon? Vanport. So after city of Portland, on the Columbia River, Vanport, a huge infusion given the shipbuilding industry, the agriculture industry from World War II. 40% of that population was African Americans new to Oregon, Latino populations. It started the diversity of our population today. And he has, they fortunately moved out of Vanport a few days before the massive flood that destroyed the entire city. But since then, he has lived and modeled the American dream, both working with his hands and with his mind, as a boilermaker, working in the fields, ultimately going back to night school at PCC and PSU, getting his doctorate in social work, in aging issues, in cultural competency issues. How do we bring our diversity lens and equity lens to taking care of our seniors and other citizens? It is a tremendous honor for us to have him, I believe in 2012, elected to the House of Representatives. Unfortunately, we won't have him coming back, it looks like, but he will continue to be an advocate for communities of color, for low-income populations, for aging seniors, for education advocates and all Oregonians. Please join me in welcoming Representative Gallegos, better known as Dr. G.
Thank you, Cameron. Thank you, Cameron. Well, as a senior vet and an aging veteran, I do appreciate the work you do, Cameron, and all of those affiliated with the Veteran Services. And I want to tell you that it's a real honor to be here, and thank the organizers for inviting me to speak this morning. Wow, 40 years. It has been a long journey. But I do want to talk about some issues, some things that you're very familiar with. You heard just a little bit ago the term silver tsunami. And so, if I wanted to address aging issues, I might begin with maybe I think there should be a law that after 70, you don't have to wear a tie if you don't want to. So I brought a tie, but, I conferred with some folks and they said, forget about it. So I'm not being disrespectful. I'm just being myself. All right. So some of the issues. I mean, we could list all kinds of issues that we need to address as we address issues for our senior population in this state. But I want to talk about a particular issue that is affecting the baby boom generation. And we all know baby boomers are those folks born between 1946 and 1964. They will be turning 70 and 50 respectively. And I'm 75, so I'm part of I'll be 75 next month, and I'm part of that group that sort of led the way for the rest of the boomers, right? But here is a picture of some of the, I think Chuck Riley's in this, is right over here. And, I don't see David, I don't know if David Gomberg is in there or not. His mom probably wouldn't let him go to this particular event. This is not Woodstock. Does anybody recognize what this is? Vortex. It is the Vortex. McIver Park, I don't know what year that was, 72, 73, somewhere in there. And it was, I think, a great example of legislative prerogative. Governor McCall, in his wisdom, as a great parent, apparently Nixon was going to come into town that week, and to avoid any kind of confrontation with these crazy kids, Governor McCall actually opened up McIver Park to a music festival. And he waived the alcohol and nudity laws. So his idea obviously was, let's keep our kids here at home where we can keep an eye on them, right? So that was great thinking. Anyway, this group, any of you remember Ken Dykewald and the Age Wave book and video that he put out? 20, 30, 40 years ago. But he was the first to really put forth the thesis that it is the baby boomers that have been driving the markets and our whole economy for the last, since they arrived. And as you can see here, 1945, Kodak, Dr. Spock, baby foods and so on. 55, increased building of schools, rock and roll. 1965, fast food chains. In 85, we had to get serious and cut our hair and wear ties and get married and settle down. And so real estate was a boom starting in 85. We decided then we needed to sort of save money, so we got discount stores going. In 2010, healthcare, fitness, geriatric, how many of us are, I mean, you know, when I was growing up, we used to watch the 5 o'clock news with my dad over the dinner table, right? And what amazes me now is, you know, I still do it, but I'm just fascinated with the ads that come on TV during that period. They're all for geriatric medicine or for all kinds of things, even some embarrassing things that are advertised during dinner hour, you know, stomach ailments and things like that. But it's interesting because I'm sure that the demographic they're really trying to address are us and elderly. But again, the age group that I want to talk about, and I should preface my comments with the fact that I am and still am on I'm the vice chair of the Higher Education, Innovation, and Workforce Development Committee in the House. And so I'm going to be addressing workforce issues. I think that's the main point I wanted to talk about this morning. And recognize that we're really approaching the fact that 25% of the population, a fourth of the population is going to be seniors very rapidly. So you can see from this chart here that we're really popping up in terms of almost 200% increase in the next few years. This is 2015 on the left, and as we move, we're going to be increasing in terms of the percentage of the population. And again, another graph just to demonstrate that whole issue of the tremendous glut that we have in terms of, we refer to it as the snake that swallowed a pig. And here we are coming up in terms of percentages of the population and in terms of the workforce. And again, it's the workforce that I think I'm particularly concerned about this morning. There was a report by AARP with regard to some of our aging issues with regard to our workforce, and you can certainly look that up and get more information about what I'm trying to address this morning. In Oregon, nearly 1 in 4, again, 25% of our Oregon workers are 55 years and older. And that, to me, here is the issue that I wanted to address. This whole issue, for example, Intel is in my district, so I can pick on Intel. But Intel has laid off a number of workers, and I talk to them pretty regularly. They're my constituents. They can't find jobs. And I think, to me, that is something I think we need to really address, the whole issue of our aging workforce and the fact that a lot of their folks in that age bracket are either getting laid off or unemployed and so on, and either they're having to take jobs that pay much less than they were accustomed to, or they can't find jobs, period. And I know several people who have been unemployed for a couple of years, 3 years, and they just cannot get back into the workforce. So my concern is, if you're 55 and you're in that situation, you cannot apply for Social Security till, 64, 70, and so that there's a gap there that we really need to address. So again, that is what I'm trying to get at this morning. And one of the mantras that I've had during my whole tenure in the legislature has been that we need to have an educated and healthy workforce, or healthy and educated workforce, in order for our communities to thrive. And I still maintain that notion. And besides mental health and physical health, well-trained and well-paid care providers, we need opportunities for seniors to continue to have meaningful and productive lives. And I guess, again, really focusing on that notion that that block of individuals, that demographic, 55 to 65, we need to make sure that they stay employed, or we need to figure out ways in which we can continue to keep them in the workforce in meaningful ways. I just want to also comment that it's, how do we address not just the issue of workforce, but, really get a sense of the interconnectedness of so many issues that are affecting all of us citizens in the state. One major concern that I have is that we're projecting a $1.35 billion deficit in the next couple of years if we don't somehow resolve the whole issue of revenue reform in this state. And I think that we have to appreciate that is the elephant in the room, is the lack of a stable revenue system in the state. Without that, we're just going to continue to be struggling with regard to human services, with regard to school support, and so on. So, when you think about what you can do, recognize that we really need to address taxes. We need to address a tax system that is going to work for the state. So those were my comments in terms of the slides, but I just want to continue on addressing some of the issues that I put into the folder. I asked our staff in Salem to help me identify some of the bills that we've come up with regard to supporting senior services. And if you look in your program, you'll see that there's like 4 pages of bills that were identified by the caucus leadership office. And, they range from health care to housing to other kinds of bills. But I think, to me, the point is that we could have really addressed many more issues with regard to bills that we've passed and bills that need to be passed with regard to senior services. So if we looked at the governor's agenda, she's really speaking a lot about we need to address the whole issue of education and the fact that our graduation rate is like one of the worst in the country. And I agree. It is vital for us to make sure that we address education. We do not become complacent that, the last couple of sessions we've done historic kind of funding of education. Well, that's true, but we've got a long way to go to get our schools back to where they need to be in order to make sure that we are educating our citizenship so that they can get the highest paid jobs that they can get, so they can also then pay the most taxes as they can. So it all works. And I guess my point being that it behooves us as seniors as well, and those of us that are advocates for seniors, to help to recognize that it's in our interest to support those young people getting the best education possible. And so they are the ones that are going to be working to support us in our retirement. So again, it's in our self-interest to really make sure that this intergenerational business is really something that we keep in front of us. I know that the governor is particularly keen on childhood issues and child care because that is sort of where she's coming from. But I think that those of us in the legislature and those of us that are continue to be there really make sure that the governor is hearing that we need to address our senior issues and get away from the whole notion of siloing senior issues and children's issues and et cetera. But so I guess that is something that I would like to encourage the legislature to think about. We certainly have a friend in the Speaker. The Speaker is certainly looking at the whole issues of housing, rent accessibility, health care, and the one sort of final note that I would want to address is that we really support our care providers. I've tried to do that when I've been in the floor in terms of passing bills and trying to address and discussions about making sure that our care providers are protected, they're well paid. I don't know why in this country some of the hardest workers in our society gets so little pay, but. I'm not sure what we're doing in terms of time. I know I don't see is Senator Gelser. I don't see her. There she is, way back there. So I don't know if it's time for you to come on up. I know it's a long way to get up here from all the way in the back, but I am so pleased to share the microphone with the senator. She was she was a representative when I met her, and now she's a senator, and certainly an advocate for aging services as well as disability services.
So good morning and welcome to Corvallis. I can't tell you there is not a better way to start a day than getting to see Representative Gallegos. It has been such an honor to serve with Joe, to see the gentle and persistent voice he brings for justice for people that often are unheard. We are going to miss him tremendously in his retirement, but I know it's just the beginning of even many more years of great service to our community. So I was asked to come and welcome you all to Corvallis. I live here in Corvallis with my family, and also wanted to thank the Department of Veterans Affairs and Samaritan for sponsoring this event today, and talk to you a little bit about where we are going with senior services and aging in the state of Oregon. Today, I feel incredibly hopeful about the future of services in our state. We've gone through some difficult times recently. We've had budget challenges, we've had cultural challenges, we've had leadership challenges, but today we have a fantastic commission. We have a strong leader of the Department of Human Services, Clyde Psyche, who has such a vision for independence, compassion, self-determination, and safety. And I am pretty certain that we have the best APD director anywhere in the country, Ashley, who is doing such an extraordinary job really looking out for the best interests of people who are aging in place, people who are living in supported care environments. And I would just like us all to take a minute and thank her for coming here and for all of the courage that she has shown in really prioritizing the needs of seniors and people with disabilities in the state of Oregon. Another reason that I'm very hopeful about where we are going as a state is the priority that our Attorney General has placed on aging and ensuring that we are prosecuting and hold accountable those that would exploit, abuse, neglect, or defraud people with disabilities and seniors. Just last week, or maybe it was earlier this week, all the time is running together, the new elder abuse prosecutor was sworn in. This is a very important investment, and it is something that not only brings justice when someone has violated a vulnerable person, it's actually a prevention effort. When we take bad actors out of the system, I always have to apologize to Representative Peter Buckley because there are no bad actors. Every actor is good. He's an actor. But when we take those who perpetrate fraud and abuse on others out of the system, it prevents that in the future, which is extraordinary. I'm also hopeful about where we're going because of the coordination of efforts among counties, among CCOs, among nonprofits, among volunteers, the Ombudsman program, all of the extraordinary volunteers that are visiting, that are advocating, that are really making this state a phenomenal place. So if you look at the leadership, the volunteers, the citizens, the initiatives and the investments that are taking place in Oregon, this is really a great place to be. And Representative Gallegos just talked about the importance of investing in education so that we have people earning the money that we need to pay the taxes that create the revenues that provide the services. But it also goes both ways. Aging does not just touch people who are aging. Aging touches all of us from the day we are born until that last day of our life. We are surrounded by people who are aging. We are aging, all of us. How many here have cared for an aging spouse, an aging parent, an aging grandparent? And for how many of you, when that came up, did that become one of the most important things in your life, if not the most important thing of your life? And for how many of you, when that happened, did you not, I mean, we're all aging every day, but how many of you did not consider yourself part of the aging population when that happened? Right. So it's all of us every day, and I just want to thank all of you for prioritizing these issues, for prioritizing our neighbors who happen to be aging by taking your time to come today to learn, to collaborate, to talk, so that we can really take advantage of this great time that we are in Oregon and make this the best state in the country to age in place, to continue to be connected with family, to know that you are safe, supported, and self-determined. So thank you all so much for coming to Corvallis, and I would be remiss if I did not ask you to go shopping and spend money and eat at our restaurants, because we have a really fabulous community, and I hope that you all take advantage of it while you're here. Thank you so much.